Hi guys, Paul here. Welcome back to the Anfield View. Hope you're all keeping well. Let's jump straight into it this Wednesday morning. Let's jump into everything Liverpool. Let's jump into DNA versus entitlement. Let's jump into sort of the culture. Jump into a little bit of the current position of where Liverpool are at in terms of the future, in terms of the past, in terms of Alonso. Let's just kick on, guys. Let's go straight into it right now. Let's get to the weeds, as it were. First and foremost, I feel there's a strange dynamic at the moment within, I suppose, the fan base, within commentators and pundits, when really discussing sort of slot and should he have an extra year and Liverpool are Liverpool feeling entitled to expect title challenges. And I wanted to really address this element because I generally feel that first and foremost Liverpool's DNA is built on many, many things, and success is one part of that from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up to where we're at now. And people will say, yeah, but you went 30 years without a title. And well, first and foremost, yes, that is true. But equally, in that period of time, we were in two European Champions League finals. We won one of them. Probably should have won the other. Probably should have won the one we lost and lost the one we won, ironically. One, yeah, UEFA Cups. We were constantly competing. We were winning FA Cups. We were winning League Cups. We had title challenges. So it wasn't like at any point our success fell off a cliff to the point we weren't ever winning. We were winning. We just weren't winning to the levels that we were used to over the years. Case in point, Man United over the last, 10, 15 years, Arsenal last 10, 15 years have been through the same sort of, and Man United went, 20, 25 years before they broke their sort of, their that sort of record when they went and won, obviously, the Premier League. And so we're not the only club to have gone through that sort of drought, but in that period we still had success, as in Man United have had, as in Arsenal have had. And so, look, our DNA of success is no different to Man United as it is to Real Madrid, as it is to Barcelona, as it is to Bayern Munich. Some of those clubs have more success because of the nature of what. Bayern Munich dominate the league and their financial position. The situation with Barca and Real Madrid dominate the league because of their financial position and the way they're structured with league right, TV deals and all these different elements. And so in the Premier League, it is far more competitive. You've got Man City that have obviously been able to come from a relatively low base, whilst they got their fan base, etc., and they've obviously been able to elevate themselves up there with their wealth. Same thing with Chelsea, So you've got this historical legacy clubs in Man United, Liverpool, and Arsenal, and then you've got your new clubs really in terms of Chelsea with more of a legacy than Man City, but it's still got the Chelsea and the Man Cities that have obviously brought themselves up to that sort of level. And so I do feel that our Liverpool fans entitled. I think to some extent when you've had success for the past 66 years, or it's fair to say essentially an historic amount of success. It's the bedrock of a lot of what Liverpool's based on, apart from sort of the ethics and the culture and the fan base and all these different things. Like, yeah, but the success is also part of of what their club's have been built on, and how we achieved that success and who achieved that success. They're all parts. The history of the club is the fabric of the club. And so just to say, something that's flippant, like, well, you know, you're behaving like you're entitled. You should be more grateful that Slot achieved the title win for yourself. First and foremost, my standards and expectations for the club are title challenges and success. It doesn't mean I expect us to win a league every single year. No, I gave up on that a long time ago. But I do expect standards at the club. Sure, no different to a Man United fan does, no different to a Real Madrid fan does, no different to a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich. There's this weird myth of, like, Liverpool's not a small club. Liverpool's a giant. And that's not me waxing lyrical just because I'm a Liverpool fan. Liverpool's an absolute giant. It's an institution. It's a footballing institution as much as Real Madrid is, as much as Bayern Munich and Barcelona and Man United is. Liverpool is. Don't forget that. I think we sometimes get talked down to as if, like, oh, like, okay, yeah, all right, we had 30 years where we should have won two or three title races and blew it. One under Rafa Benitez, one under Brendan Rodgers, case in point. Ultimately, a lot of our problems over the 30 years, half of those problems were because we had the wrong ownership and didn't invest enough money. Half of those problems were we didn't have the right people commercially employed within the club to really achieve the success that it needed to. And so both of those problems were the reasons we didn't invest the right money. We brought the wrong players at times, and we chose cheaper options or two players instead of one player. All these different things, we can unpack them from another day. But there is rhymes and reasons as to why Liverpool didn't expand the ground and didn't achieve the success that we did. And it meant sometimes we overachieved. In case of people like Rafa Benitez had awful owners, but managed to really overperform for us, given the amount of money that we gave them to spend. And I feel that saying it as simply as Liverpool fans are entitled. Well, no, I just think we have standards and expectations, and those standards and expectations are but built on the very fabric of our history. And look, if it's no different if you were Nike and you've done 25 phenomenal trainers, but obviously done thousands, but you've done 25 phenomenal trainers, then the standards and expectations for those customers are for the next great trainer. It's no different to being a Liverpool fan. We're the customers. We expect the standards and expectations for the club to be at the same levels that historically they've been at. We don't lower those standards just because it suits other people's narratives. Our expectations are our expectations, and I feel that Liverpool fans 100% are appreciative of Slot's title win. We also try and balance it by saying half of it is factual that he took over a Klopp squad. It's factual he took over a Klopp squad that was immensely fit, and had a great mindset. It's also factual that maybe some of those players were burnt out and getting older. It's also factual that he used his tactics, played 14 or 15 players that season. We were lucky with injuries, and his tactics worked like a dream. He got a great tune out of Gravenberch, got a great tune out of Gakpo, got a great tune out of Salah, etc. as well that season. And so, sure, all of these things are true. So, it all depends on perspective. Do Liverpool fans think we're entitled? No, it's just standards and expectations. To other people, do they feel we're entitled? Maybe, but then on that basis, if Liverpool fans are entitled, then so are Man United, and so are Chelsea, and so are Real Madrid, so are Barcelona, so are Bayern Munich. We're no more entitled than any of those fan bases. If you feel that we feel that we're entitled, then we're in the exact same as them. It's historical DNA, and it's about historical DNA and standards. We hold ourselves to a standard that we expect built on 60 odd years of history. It's not built on 1 year. Whilst how can you do that? You've had 30 years of poor history in the Premier League. That doesn't define who we are. First and foremost, we had awful owners for half of that. Yeah. And also during that period of 30 years, we also had two Champions League finals, won one of them, performed as well as what Man United did in the Champions League over that period. We also had a period where we won the UEFA Cup as well. We were winning FA Cups. We're still challenging for leagues at times. And so don't be fooled. It wasn't like Arsenal or Chelsea were winning more Champions Leagues than us or Man United during that sort of 30-year drought. Man United also had a 25-year drought. Look at how many years has it been for Arsenal and their drought now since they moved to the Emirates. And so look, you don't suddenly go, how it's wrong for you to hold your club to standards. No, our DNA is our DNA, and our history is our history, and it's who we are. And I don't feel Liverpool fans have to apologise for wanting the club to really live up to the standards that we expect. The standards of quality, of player, of results, of success, of how we do business, of how we treat people, and whether it's sort of, local or if it's abroad, or whether it's the atmosphere, or whether it's the whole culture of it, what makes Liverpool. It's a whole concoction, it's a whole smorgasbord of things that make Liverpool. But don't be fooled. Success is in our DNA. It may not happen every single year, but it is in our DNA. Our standards are our standards, and they don't drop regardless. And so it's okay for some people to be more grateful than others on like I'm appreciative and of Slot's success in winning the league, but equally, I don't feel like I have to sort of worship his feet because it's the second Premier League year win 30 years. Look, ultimately, half of that is down to poor ownership. Was our problems before. The other half of it, we've been phenomenal under Klopp. Yeah, sure, sometimes we didn't win. Look, but you can't do much when you're hitting ridiculous points tallies and not winning. That would win 20 of the 25 of the previous Premier Leagues. No fan, you're being unreasonable as a fan if you're getting 90 plus points and you're not winning the league and then you're still moaning. And there is a degree of sort of perspective to everything. And so, look, I wanted to put this across, guys, because I do think there's a real sort of battle between the sort of DNA, the standards, the history, the fabric. There's a portion of people that just feel that you have to give Slot one more season to rewrite these wrongs because of we all hate the word mitigation now. I think we need to retire that word forever. But because of the mitigating factors of Slot, of Jota, God rest his soul, we love him forever. Because of Isak's injury, because of Salah's form drop, because of this, us not buying enough players in the summer, albeit that's self-inflicted. Because of all these factors, we feel that we were obliged to give him one more year in the fact that he won us a title. Then if you're of that camp, then you're of that camp. You believe what you believe. Personally, it's not so much about that. It's about, for me, I just don't see any improvement throughout the season. I think we're just as bad now as we were in September. We may even be worse. I feel like we may have even got worse as the season's gone on. And if you want to blame injuries, blame injuries. But I would say, apart from Isak, the vast majority of the season we've been okay, bar the situation with Conor Bradley at right back. You're going to get injuries in the season. Everyone does. You can't expect to have everyone fit all season. Isak and Salah were fit for the vast majority. So it's only Isak that you're really referring to. And look, we knew when we purchased him, he wasn't going to be fit forever. And so it's only really the broken leg onwards on that situation. And so my general view, on this problem with Slot at the moment is the fact that you can't see any improvement. You can't see that has he got the best out of any player outside of Szoboszlai this season? The answer would be no. Has he improved anyone in this squad this season outside of Szoboszlai this season? No. Has everybody regressed? Yes, apart from Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai and Rio, has everybody else in the squad regressed from last season? Yes, unequivocally. Have they regressed dramatically? Yes, unequivocally. Are we lucky that we're going to be in if we do get in the Champions League, which mathematically, even though people can't do maths at the moment, mathematically it's not even guaranteed yet. Are we unequivocally lucky to be, if we scrape into the Champions League this year? Yes. Without a doubt, we're lucky because Aston Villa have been on a European run, which means they're sort of flip-flopping in terms of Premier League results. Man United have sacked their manager in January and obviously gone forward and beaten us again. Chelsea are just imploding left, right, and centre. And that's, we've got so many positions for a Champions League now. It used to be top two, now top three, now top four, now it's top five. Jesus, come on already. It's not success for Liverpool to get into the top five positions. It wasn't success if we got in the top four. Now you've got top five, maybe even top six if Villa win. I mean, that's just stupid, isn't it? Don't get me wrong, I'm happy for us to actually be given the Monopoly pass and a goodie bag, basically almost like a charity case to let us. It feels like a charity case to let us in the Champions League next year. And don't get me wrong, I will gladly take it. But equally, at no point can you celebrate us getting in the Champions League this year because, frankly, we haven't earned it or deserved it. We've played woeful for the entire season, and the only grace I would give the players and people at the club would be, look, you get a hug and a pass from the summer until Christmas. You get a massive hug and a pass because look, I get it. It's brutal what happened with Jota. And then there's no way of dressing it up. It is brutal when you get massive hug and a pass for me until Christmas. I think that look, you're going to forever miss him, like we would a family member. But equally, come on, there has to have been some sort of improvement after Christmas. So where you fall on the whole sort of keeping Slot, whether you want to get Alonso or another manager. My big fear is that we carry on the same old with Slot next year. He carries on the same tactics because he's married to that style. He carries on the same fitness because that's what he believes in. And we get maybe 3 or 4 signings in the summer, but they're not quite, either they don't hit the ground running or they're not quite to the level that we want because we can't attract them or we don't have the money for them or the World Cup hindered us. The squad's too small because if Slot wants a small squad. The club don't want to spend enough money to get a bigger squad. And I can just see a roadmap where we're not much further forward in October than where we're at now. And then all the managers that were good and available have all gone. And we're left scrambling around saying, well, we basically have to keep Slot until the end of his contract. So we write off the entire next season of being awful again. So basically a mirror image of this season. And when we could have brought in an Alonso this summer or Raniero or whoever. And equally, look, there's also a scenario, a very realistic scenario, where we keep him, we carry on just as bad a season next year as this season has been, which is awful. And then Alonso goes elsewhere, he's amazing. So not only do we then miss out on Alonso, which would solve our problem, he then betters another competitor. And we get double, we get two lots of pain. We miss out on somebody that would have come to us, or loads of different options that would have come to us to then solve our problem, and then end up with a situation where we've got to deal with our season and also the very fact that we knew we could have solved the problem. My viewpoint is that look, if next season is 70% of this season, then it's still an awful season. And let's be honest, I don't think any manager that would be available this summer can do a worse job than this season. And look, if you want to blame it all on anyone else bar Slot, then that's up to you. But I'm just saying that we can't get a worse season. We've lost 19 games. We've let the most amount of goals in since 1990. We've lost pretty much every Man City 3 times, Man United twice. We barely put in a performance in about 70, from last February to now, we barely put in a performance. And so realistically, what's more likely? We get 2 or 3 signings, we maybe improve by 20%. We've still got question marks over McAllister. Still got question if McAllister stays, are we ever going to get the version of McAllister again? It feels like realistically his legs have gone. Canate, are we ever going to get a consistent Canate? 1 season amazing, 1 season average. Virgil's going to be older next season. We've got more people out of contract next season. We've got question marks whether Jones is even going to stay in the squad next season. There's more questions than answers when it comes to Liverpool, really, at the moment. And so the direction of travel is, it feels like we're driving a car into a dense fog, into a forest where you have literally no vision of what's happening, what's going to happen further down the line. Is the car got the right tools to really get through that and to the sun at the end of the road? I can't see it. I just can't see it. And my problem for where we're at the moment is whilst I am grateful to Slot, and I do cling on to sort of Szoboszlai, Wirtz, and Isak, and the sort of elements to what we have. I'm also, for as much as I want to be positive and cling to those elements, I also just see style problems, which I'm not sure we're playing a system that can even work in the league in terms of efficiency, in terms of getting results. We're not playing a system that's entertaining. I'm not sure we're going to buy the right players to, one, get the best out of the whatever we're trying to achieve, but also two, solve the problem of our opposition, which is half the battle. You do have to actually have an objective of trying to win the league. And it feels like, well, it's all well and good trying to play this style or that style, but look, frankly, we just want to win the league and compete. And trying to play in a style or manner that, one, doesn't entertain us and two, doesn't get us results is the ultimate disaster, isn't it, on that front? Well, time will tell. If the club wants to sit on this position and roll the dice, I think it's far more of a roll of the dice. I'm hoping that we're going to get an improvement from this current position with Slot when we haven't improved from February last year to now. So that's a long period of time. We haven't in 70 odd games, 70, 80 games, we haven't improved. So you're banking on the previous half a season that we were great over the majority of 70, 80 games where we've been awful, and saying, well, we got more faith on him turning it around than we have other managers that have also had proven success. And so let's bear in mind, Alonso's success in Germany, don't care what anyone says. Winning the Bundesliga is far greater by a country mile than it is to be winning the Eredivisie. And I love Dutch players and style and stuff, but I don't necessarily like the systems of play when they come to the Premier because I don't think it works. It's been proven with, as I've said in other videos, Van Gaal, Koeman, Hullet, you name it. Ten Hag. And so ultimately moving forward, guys, the club will choose what it chooses with its infinite wisdom as to why they feel that way. They may well feel that they feel that they have to give them another year. They may well feel that the investment of last year was made for a reason, and that was part one, and part two of it is this season. And it's only fair to give them this part two to try and achieve whatever the vision was. I don't know. I mean, I think honestly, I think that sometimes the best laid plans last summer were wonderful, but sometimes you also have to cut your losses and just understand and say, look, we got a great title win. Thank you very much. It's not panned out. You've had from February last season to now to turn it around. It's not turned around. We can't see any improvements, any entertainment, any direction of travel that tells us it's going to be any better in September. On that basis, we've got an opportunity right now to bring in some world-class managers that have also proven as much as yourself. In Alonso's case, for me personally, proved more when he was at Leverkusen than what you did at Feyenoord, because it's a better season against Bayern Munich. I don't care what you say about people. Bayern Munich had an awful season. In that case, that would mean Klopp's wins were when Bayern Munich had an awful season. You can't be selective on what suits your narrative. He was also unbeaten and great in Europe. And, so it's like, look, his stature in the football game and recognition was greater than Slot's. Nobody expected a slot at Liverpool. Liverpool did it. We won the league. Great. But for me, and I know it's not for everybody, for me, I do generally listen to what people say in terms of we want to give him one more season because of these circumstances and because they feel that they almost have to give him one more year because he won a title. My viewpoint is the standards are the standards, and remember the club's there to achieve results, and it's a business. And whilst I do love our culture, and sometimes we give managers way too long. But equally, if only we were as charitable with money in terms of giving them more money in transfers as much as we give them time. My viewpoint is that we've got an opportunity with some great managers available this summer, some after the World Cup, Alonso and Riona before that. We may not have that opportunity again. So if things carry on the way they are, then we're going to be looking for a new manager come October, November. They may not be around. Simple. And we could end up with a situation where we're stuck with Slot until the end of his contract, which I could probably see them saying, well, we can't get any of these people because they're not around. So we're going to have to essentially start right. So if the direction of travel carries on exactly where we're at now, it's October, November, we're going to be stuck really with the same thing all the way until the end of his contract. Yeah. I mean, look, I want to be ultra positive, guys, and say I can see the utopia of how it can't get any worse, which means it's going to get better. Like I don't think it can get any worse. But intrinsically, we've got Ekiteke out until January. We've got a player that historically has problems with fitness in Isak. Salah's retiring. Well, not retiring, but Salah's leaving. Robertson's going. Virgil's will be 1 year older, so he's not going to get any better. Kanate's unpredictable. McAllister looks like the wheels have fallen off completely. I don't think that's, let's be honest. Historically, I don't see him getting any better now. So I don't know how we're ever going to even get 50% of the old McAllister back. Don't know what system we're trying to play. I don't know what style we're trying to play. We've got no wingers. We're putting a hell of a lot of stock on Rio. Verts has struggled in this league. So just listing for all that, it's not being negative. These are all factual points. You can't ignore the factual points just because you want to be ultra upbeat and go on just on that. Look, if you just want to believe in this because you want to believe in this, Nothing wrong with that. Honestly, nothing wrong with that. I will love the club forever, both good and bad. Doesn't change. The very fact I'm just very sort of honest in my views in saying that look, the direction of travel at the moment, unless we do some miracle work in the summer, or there's a hell of a lot of awareness shown within the club in terms of everybody, from people that are purchasing the players to the squad depth to the manager with the fitness and the tactics and the style. Unless there's a hell of a lot of awareness, a climb down on the stubbornness and appreciation of what's actually needed from everybody, then we're just going to be in the same position in October. If we get all of that, and 70% of the improvements that we need, then there may be a chance you can turn this around. If people are just going to sort of hitch their wagon to their views, well, we have to have this squad, and we can only be a small squad, and I'm only going to play this style, and I'm only going to train this way, and we're not going to have enough awareness to learn from our mistakes. Then, if you don't learn from them, you're going to repeat them. That's just a fact of life. That's not me being overly philosophical. If you don't learn from you, all that's going to happen is you're going to repeat them, and we'll see in the summer. We will see in the summer, and we will see in September as to if he does stay. We will find out whether the club, and everybody associated. And I wax lyrical when we do phenomenal, and so I don't get me wrong. I'm here. I sit here and said Michael Edwards was the second coming of everything. When we were putting out genius sales, a youth player that was worth 5 million was being sold for 20 million, left, right, and centre to fund buys, and we're buying people for 10 million. That then going to be world class stars. Look, I've been waxing lyrical on our youth, on our scouting network, and our buys for years. And I'm not arguing any of the buys of last summer. I'm just saying the current position we're at now, a lot of awareness, a lot of learnings from what went wrong this year have to happen. Are we going to climb down from an ego position and have enough awareness to really put those mistakes right on a lot of people's levels? We shall see, isn't it, guys? But great to hear your thoughts. Time will tell. Speak to you soon.